Hello. We will now call the August 21st meeting of the Education Professional Standards Board Waiver Committee to order. I am joined this morning by my fellow committee members, Corinne Murphy and Lisa Rosinski. We have 5 waivers to review and formulate a recommendation to present to the full board. We will start with waiver A, presented by Brandon Herod.
Mr. Aaron is helping us set up in the board meeting room this morning. So he will be there in the board meeting when we present to you the full board. But actually with this waiver, after the agenda was published, the university requested to withdraw the waiver because there's a different placement. So no action is needed on this waiver request. Easiest waiver ever. I like to start you out with the easy one.
And then there were 4. Okay, so moving down to waiver B, which will be presented by, sorry, I don't see. Who's presenting waiver B here?
All these will be presented by Ms. Salzman.
Oh, there we go. I promise I could not see it. So waiver B, a request for waive the 10-year residency requirement for admission assessment for Ms. Johnson, presented by Ms. Salzman, sorry.
Okay, so this one was submitted by EKU on behalf of Christy Johnson. She's a candidate for admission into the Option 9 program. Ms. Johnson took her English ACT in 1994. She then realized her English and reading scores were outside the 10-year recency, so she took the case writing that had technology challenges. But she passed the case reading assessment on July 18th. She's scheduled to retake the case writing on August the 8th, but her scores won't be available by the time school started on the 14th. So they are requesting a waiver of the 10-year recency requirement for her English ACT score.
Is there any discussion? Okay, make a motion.
Make a motion to approve waiver B.
Righty, I'll second the motion. I did have a question. Did they let her start since it's past the 14th? Okay. I was just curious. But yeah, I'll second the motion to approve waiver B. Any other discussion? We'll move on to waiver C, request to waive emergency substitute certification requirement for Gallatin County Schools, also presented by Ms. Salzman.
So Gallatin County Schools has been unsuccessful in finding qualified teachers for multiple positions, they said. This applicant intends to complete the bachelor's degree as soon as possible, which will eliminate the need for the 2.5 GPA, and hopes to eventually pursue an Option 6 program. She has earned 111 credit hours, but does not hold the required GPA. The applicant's GPA is a result for trying to complete coursework while holding a full-time job and caring for an extremely high-needs child. So the district is requesting that EPSB waive the required GPA and issue an emergency substitute teaching.
Does anyone have a motion?
Can I ask what the GPA is? I don't have those.
It's right here.
1.926.
She has 110 earned
111 credit hours.
We probably should bring that above a 2.0 to graduate college.
She would have to retake some classes more than likely. Does anyone have?
We're doing emergency sub certificate.
Correct. I'll make a motion to approve waiver C.
Second.
Right.
Hope that she focuses on her grades so she can graduate college.
Yes, because the bachelor's would, yeah. She'd at least get that 2.0, she should be okay. All right, moving on to waiver D. Waiver D is a request to waive emergency certificate requirement for Montgomery County Schools, also presented by Ms. Salzman.
So Montgomery County is kind of in the same boat as Gallatin and successful in finding qualified teachers for an LBD position. The district is struggling to fill multiple math and special ed positions, and this applicant is interested in pursuing the Option 6 program for LBD certification and is enrolling in graduate courses to raise his GPA for admission to the program. The district is requesting that the EPSB waive the required GPA and issue an emergency certificate for this candidate while he works to meet the admission requirements for an Option 6 program.
Does anyone have a motion?
You say his current GPA?
Sorry.
His current GPA is 2.178.
Because I couldn't find it. Or the number of credit hours he currently has.
Credit hours, he has,
He has a bachelor's.
Oh, he already has a bachelor's?
yes.
Because he's applying for the emergency teaching
Is that
certificate.
to a 2.75 or
The emergency, it's a 2.5 for the emergency teaching certificate.
I meant for the enrollment and the options?
Yes. And a few years ago, the board did waive the GPA for emergency teaching certificates to 2.0 on a blanket waiver. I believe that was in 21. However, since then, you have been reviewing these on a case-by-case basis and have generally been approving those that were above the 2.0, but below the 2.5.
So with the
Sorry.
I'm just making sure I understood the clarification. So with the substitute emergency certification, the bachelor's waives the GPA requirement because it is 2.0, but then with the teaching, it's 2.5, even if you have a bachelor's. I'm just trying to make sure I understood. Okay.
And to confirm, this waiver, waiver D, is for an actual emergency teaching certificate, not the sub.
Okay. Does anyone have a motion?
Waiver date.
Does anyone second? Thank you. Moving on to waiver E, request to waive renewal requirements for provisional certificate for school counselor for Mr. Whitehead. This will also be presented by Ms. Salzman.
So Zach Whitehead has submitted this waiver to request the renewal of his provisional certificate for school counseling so he can complete the additional coursework needed for issuance of the standard certificate for school counselor. He stated he received misinformation, which resulted in him not completing all the required coursework. He has attempted to apply to several graduate programs, but only found 2 that offer what he needs. One was full and the other was in person, which wasn't feasible for his current position. But he is requesting that the EPSB waive the required coursework and renew his provisional certificate for school counselor.
Do I have a motion? Waiver E.
So we'll only, if we waive it, we're just renewing it for 1 year, or are we?
So the provisional school counselor certificate is the 5-year certificate. With this individual, we dug into this a little bit more because when you look at his materials, he says that he's completed 45 hours in a program, which is a lot for the counselor program. You all have seen some where recently Spalding University changed their policy that they recommend for the provisional once they've hit 33 hours, and then the additional coursework can be used for renewal of the provisional if they don't meet the experience requirement. Because with the provisional, you have to, and in his case, he has teaching experience. So he had to have the counseling experience and 3 to 6 hours above the provisional, which in a lot of programs, that 45 hours would have encompassed. And the one that he completed, that was considered the provisional program, was that 45 hours. So if you were to approve his request, he would be issued the provisional, would have an additional 5 years to complete the more coursework on top of the 45-hour to be recommended for the standard counselor certificate. And this would be in line because he's already completed 45 hours. That would be in line with some of the others that were able to use the additional coursework for renewal of their provisional certificate. So a little different than what we've seen. So if I make that more confusing, please let me know.
Motion to approve waiver E.
I second the motion. Is there any other discussion? Any other discussion on anything? Hearing no further discussion, at this time, the waiver committee meeting is adjourned.